Hello. On the 24th of January this year, I attended the Confer conference on the proposed regulation of psychotherapists and counsellors by the HPC. I have followed the regulation debate because I have a long and extensive experience of dealing with the HPC as a member of the public. And I wanted the public to have a voice. And that is why I went along to the conference. Marc Seale approached me, and after I had identified myself, told me that if I brought up my case, that he would say that it was irrelevant. I don't agree. I don't think that feedback from the public about the HPC is irrelevant to a discussion about extending regulatory powers of the HPC. We had a disastrous and profoundly traumatic experience with a music therapist about 7 years ago. At the time, music therapy had been regulated by the HPC for a few years. I discovered much later that over 70% of complaints submitted by the public to the HPC are dismissed outright and return a no case to answer. Our own case resulted in a no case to answer on some preposterous grounds, and we were told that we had no right of appeal. And when I tried to find out details of the panel, and also whether they would have been competent to consider such a complicated specialist case as ours, I found it impossible to obtain the information. It needs to be remembered that registrants are allowed to put on record what they please and also to claim what they please to the investigating panel. So perhaps that explains in part how we came to have a no case to answer decision to our first complaint. On the 7th of July 2008, Kelly Johnson, who is the HPC's Director of Fitness to Practice, wrote to me saying, even if a registrant has made an error or has caused harm on a particular occasion or demonstrated a lack of competence over a period of time, this may not necessarily result in the panel determining that there is a case to answer. So, even if members of the public have suffered harm or have been victims of incompetence, they may well get a no case to answer, and in fact most of them do. Now, psychotherapists and counsellors don't need me to tell them what the effects of a non-acknowledgement of harm and trauma are on the victim. Such an outcome simply compounds the harm and the trauma, re-traumatizes the individual, and worst of all, precludes recovery, precludes closure. You do need an acknowledgement and an apology to be able to move on, at the very least. It seems to me that there is a conflict of values here for psychotherapists and counsellors in embracing an organization that perpetuates trauma. I don't believe that there are many people who have the energy and the inclination and the motivation and the time to pursue vexatious claims. So my guess is that most of those 70% of complainants that have been denied an acknowledgement may very well be struggling to come to terms with the aftermath of damaging practices. The HPC is fond of repeating that it adopts a non-punitive approach to registrants. And yes, I can see that. In most cases, they punish the public. It seems glaringly obvious to me that the HPC, with its dismal record of harm to complainants and its failure to deal with the psychological complexities of cases, is unfit to regulate psychotherapists and counselors. The experiences of two friends of mine indicate that some form of regulation, some form of accountability, some form of genuine concern for members of the public is necessary. However, our own experiences suggest most strongly that this is to be sought elsewhere. The HPC is not fit for the purpose of regulating psychotherapists and counselors. I do hope that those who are involved in the debate will bear in mind again that there are real people behind these discussions, and that whatever decision is made at this crucial stage and in the next few months will have a real impact on real people. And the HPC has already had an extremely negative impact on many members of the public who have dared to challenge the practices of some of its registrants. And I hope that this will be borne in mind. Thank you for listening.